It's all live. Hello.
Hello.
And we're off. So we were just talking about the Revolution Britain and their impact on the protest scene, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I was just, pointing out the scary sort of similarities between the way things started out in Nazi Germany, to anyone that's sort of, just come out of GCSEs and studied it all, and how things are sort of developing with the way of nationalism's growth and the amount of racism that has been growing in Britain lately. And I don't know, it's just scarily similar. It almost seems like you're seeing this group that is effectively almost reliving the very, very beginning stages of the Nazi movement.
They may as well be skinheads. They may as well just go back to exactly what it was, because they're spouting exactly the same stuff. The only difference is they're doing it for a smartphone. I don't know how the hell they did it then, because I wasn't born then, and I can't even picture not having a smartphone now. I can't even go back to when I was 12 and there was no smartphone. It's like, oh, that just didn't happen. But, looking at it now, and people say, well, it took this long for it to get this severe back in that kind of era. Well, we didn't have technology, what we've got now. Things are spreading like wildfire. Conversation gets like wildfire, and there's events planned already online. And it'll be allowed. They'll allow it. If that was anonymous, if that was Occupy, if that was anyone else, the police would be straight there. But really, really funny how the police aren't on this like a car bonnet.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's quite curious. I mean, what my fear of all of this is that obviously, I mean, they've targeted the 5th of November and they've targeted, I think, a couple of others.
18th of October.
There we go. And I think what the dangerous thing about it here is that are they just going to let it happen so that the police can then get involved? I.e., oh, look how violent these groups are. We can't let these rioters on our streets and so forth. Let's ban them. Let's ban protesting.
Well, possibly
it's quite convenient.
Possibly, maybe they would possibly try and get these cannons that are going to be pretty much static. Sorry, they're not going to be able to use the cannons in London to the extent that they wanted to, because they're just not accessible. They made a big blunder with that. So what they're going to do, I think, what they're going to do after that is they're going to introduce firmer methods. They're going to say, look, the cannons didn't work. Not the fact that they've just purchased 3 dud cannons they can't use, but on the fact that protesters have beat the cannons and now we're going to have to get the tear gas and the more extreme shit out. And I think that's their little plot, and I think the police are going to use this as an advantage. A riot between two groups is more preferable than a riot against the BBC or a riot against the Met.
And I think, like with the water cannons and Boris, you've got to think that we're coming up to a general election and Cameron doesn't stand a chance of getting in again, and Boris is challenging for the leadership, and he's going to do things that make him look like a strong leader so that his party will put him forward. He's going to want backing. So if the water cannons don't work, what extremes is he going to go to show how, what a leader he is, how he can lead this party into greatness, to challenge Cameron for his role.
And what better way of doing that than stopping a potential riot from happening?
Yeah.
Or a street battle between two groups.
It'd almost be a self-made riot, because this is what the media and the propaganda have been doing all along. I'm sorry, but if they cannot not claim responsibility for this, this is what they've been doing by blaming Muslims on TV and throwing racial propaganda and class war at people. They've been setting this for years.
I mean, the hatred, isn't it strange? I remember when I was a child, this Islamophobia didn't really exist.
No.
It just all suddenly came out of nowhere. I mean, this enemy it just materialized out of nowhere. Suddenly the media started to say, oh, look at this big threat, we're all going to turn into an Islamic caliphate and so forth, blah, 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 etc., etc., and it's just...
The fact that Muslim is possibly, it's quite a peaceful religion as well, isn't it? You wouldn't just directly look at it and go, "Whoa, they're going to kill us." It's like, like a Christian, it's got exactly the same morals as a Christian. It's got the same.
But we're not a Christian country.
But apart from all of that, we're not. Exactly, we're not a Christian country.
Yeah. Why are you fighting for the pagan rights? Get out there with your hippie spells and things like that, and you look.
Yeah. I mean, either way, even if we were a Christian country, I mean, what does it matter anymore? Realistically, you've got so many different religions in this country, you can't call yourself anything anymore. This
No,
country
to be
isn't a
honest,
Christian country, it's a country.
It's another hypocrisy of the fascism and the racism groups, is that we, the indigenous people of this country, not that there is any fucking indigenous people of this country left, have rights. Now, indigenous people of this country weren't Christians. They weren't.
No.
They were pagans. You know, so why aren't you defending the pagan religion?
Yeah. I think personally, from a standpoint, you kind of you have to look at it as though this has been what they've gearing up to. This has been what they've been working up to in some form. They've thrown a racial war and a class war into the UK, and now what we've got ISIS. I said,
we had this debate earlier. Is it ISIS? ISIS,
whatever.
ISIS, yeah. I mean,
America creates something out. They create something new to throw at it, or some other false flag, whatever. But this is a new one. This is just going to fuel them.
Well, haven't you realised that it was funny about the flag that ISIS or whatever we're going to call them? Isn't it funny how the flag is exactly the same as Al-Qaeda's? The only difference is the colour green. They replaced the green with black, just to make them seem scarier, you know, because obviously, black's supposed to be the colour of death and danger and all that.
George Bush sitting there with his little crayons designing it, can't you? Like, this'll get me. It's like, it's just like, they're pathetic. They're pathetic. And the worst part is, right, we know they're pathetic, but you can't tell the general population that, because what's going to happen from it isn't pathetic. It's going to...
But that's the thing. The thing is that it's not pathetic because people believe this, and that's the thing. The problem is that, I mean, I can't help to blame our own faith, to be honest, in a lot of ways, because we now have the internet. We're not like other generations where you had to believe what the sun spouted, even though you knew it didn't sound realistic. But because that was the only media you had, now all you've got to do is type into Google a couple of things, and there is a picture of Bin Laden shaking hands with a couple of American military men. I mean, it's not something that's hidden. You can find it online, and it's not something they're hiding either, because they could censor it easily, but they choose not to.
They don't know, because they don't need to. They don't need to. They don't need to. That's the worst part. They don't even need to.
Tories did, didn't they? How many years of speech did they remove?
You what?
The Tories, they self-censored, didn't they? They removed all their speeches, didn't they?
Did they?
You can't hold me to that. I never said it.
It wasn't there. We erased it.
Oh.
They erase so that you can't go, well, look, you promised this.
Did they forget that, I mean, the media reported on them at some point saying those speeches, and they've been recorded by Hansard?
Yeah.
So the recordings are all there if you want to go get them.
They're idiots.
Yeah. And that's the worst part, we're listening to a bunch of idiots.
I see a thing with some kids. Sky News are doing a thing where they're in like with a new child's newspaper, and they have some kids on every week from now on. And they had the Chancellor on for the first time, and this little boy asked him what 7 times 8 was.
Oh yeah.
It's like I'd make a rule in life not to answer math questions.
I'm gonna hold the big box of money and tell everyone what to do with it, but I'm not gonna learn my times tables. Fuck that shit. This is England.
And it's like the kid was like, "Do you know maths?" And he's like, "I got an A level in it. I was tested at school."
That goes to show.
I wonder why we're in so much debt.
Yeah. It's been multiplying instead of plussing.
Oh my god. I mean, that's just scary. I mean, can you imagine? It's almost like giving... I don't know. It's almost like giving a shopaholic your credit card and expecting not to have huge amounts of debt afterwards.
Just spend 50 quid.
There you go. I mean, you know, just here you go, and that's that. You know what to do, you know how to take care of it, and it's like, yeah, of course, you come back and your house is gone, your car's been repossessed, and everything else is gone.
Yeah.
And then what they do is, instead of blaming it on the shopaholic, you blame it on your children. That's effectively what the government's doing. Instead of blaming the people in charge. They blame it on the people, saying, "Oh, it's people on benefits. It's the hard-working man. That's the problem, not the fact that
I was looking at a post earlier, and it was on it. It was sitting there saying, right, there's so many billion people. There's now 7 billion people in the world, and blah blah blah. And there's actual real life human beings underneath going, we need a plague, we need a mass cull, and it's like, what is that? Dismissing just you? Or is that just generally you're going to pick who you want to go? It's like, it does take about 7, what, you're going to just pick 6 billion people, but your family's going to, fuck off, you're on the internet discussing this right now, you would be part of that call. It's like, what the fuck? There's no sense in this. There is no sense in the way people are really suffering with knowing what's happening.
We have a little, a very small action coming up soon, and what part of it is to do with tax avoidance. So I had to do a little bit of researching about how much the tax gap is. Now the official figure from the government is 35 billion, but when that doesn't include the likes of Amazon and Starbucks and Boots and all the others, Topshop, could go on, that don't pay their taxes. And when that's all taken into account, those that use offshore and snidey methods, it's estimated between 120 and 150 billion that this country is being shortfall. It's a hell of a lot of money, and you're chasing what pittance from benefits? I mean, how much
like chase the pigeon. It is like chase the pigeon. It's just, there's just no benefit to what they're doing. I think they just do it for, like, I don't know why they do it. Obviously I do. They want the poor to be demonised, throwing the middle class at the poor class. But on the same level, do they not get tired of this?
I mean, I think it's more to the fact that we don't. I mean, I think that we blame the government for a lot of things, but we also have to realise that they're not in power anymore. They don't have the power. They're just a legislator they're the pretty face behind the reality of what actually controls. Because we live in a capitalist society, and what do capitalist societies have for power? Money. But governments don't make money. It's the corporations. Yeah. And if, for example, say the Conservative Party, who I'm sure some of them do want to get these companies paying tax, if they suddenly turned around and attacked the corporations, what would happen is they'd all be out of politics tomorrow. Yeah. Because suddenly they'd all get
a lot of the funding comes from the corporate parties and the companies.
Especially the Conservative Party. I mean, even the Labour Party. I mean, even them, they make millions upon millions through company donations.
Well, when you look at it, government compared to the rest, when you look at corporations, the Crown Commission, which is a very big part of this, when you look at it, the government are just like, they're just little administrators going, beep, 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 we'll do.
They're administrating the people to make sure that the people behave and do what they're told.
Keep both sides. They're trying to keep both sides to what the plan is, and I think the Conservatives have buggered up both sides really. They've gained an enemy on both sides. They've not done very well this time.
No, not at all. But I mean, I just think the government's now, as I think it was one of the Wave of Action posts, I think now actually saying that the government's just there to administer the people, to administrate the people, to make sure the people behave, do what they're told, buy the right goods, etc., etc., as opposed to actually governing and making the best possible decisions for the strip of land that they're supposed to be in charge of.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're just administrators.
I think the recent discovery about the policing Balcom, I don't know if you've seen that I never read the full story, but they gathered intelligence on the camp, and then they sold. They didn't sell it. Sorry, they gave it to a corporation. They gave it to Quadrilla. Why are the police facilitating a corporation? You know, they are supposed to do work for the people of this country, not the corporation. So there is no reason to give personal details to protesters who aren't doing anything illegal. You know, protesting is not illegal. Why are you passing that data onto a third party? Surely that is a breach of the Data Protection Act. You haven't given consent to go sharing your shit with corporations.
Yeah.
And then you've got wrong. There was another force that gets money from Virgin for, you know, like I think people who like hack it, you know, get it free. So if you, the more of them that went to court, they got money from it for each one that went to court. So where's the impartiality? Because if my police force is going to get money for chasing Virgin hacking, I'm going to send them out to that rather than the old lady who got mugged down the road because there ain't no profit in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where you can't have that kind of conflict of interest in the police force. But they're going to privatise the police to G4S and stuff like that, and they're going to privatise our NHS, and everything will be privatised. Everything. We will have no public services.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know the whole story, but isn't there something to do with the religion in corporation? A court case was won with a corporation almost saying that it was a religion in terms.
No, they got granted the same rights as religious organisations.
Yeah. Is that not
like what was that?
Dangerous thing for?
I can't remember. It was in America, that one.
Oh, of course it would be. Of course it would be.
Yeah. A court ruled them the same as a religious entity.
Does that mean that I can register myself as a religion?
No, but you're already registered as a corporation.
Well, I can be a corporation. I can make a corporation up. I'll find something.
Yes, you can register yourself as a religion because lots of scammers do, and they go on these channels and they're like, "I'll heal you, just $10 more. Just $10 more."
Yes, we could all just register ourselves as a religion and say, "I'm sorry, it's against my religion. I can't do this."
What am I doing? We should register as a religion.
Right, that's it. Let's go out and just register. I'm gonna be Kiki.
You don't have to pay tax to be in a religion, do you?
Nobody's allowed to be in my religion, just me. It's my religion.
That's madness.
Religions don't have to pay tax, do they?
No.
No.
I'm not going to pay tax.
Scientology don't pay tax.
No.
Well, that's how the Catholic Church got so rich. Yeah. But I mean, that is insane.
You watch my religion. I'm going to be spinning in dollars within the week. Yeah, and I'm going to be driving around, and no one's going to tell me what speed limit I can go because it's against my religion. I'm going to make it up just like they do. Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's terrifying when corporations get those kind of liberties and so forth. And I mean, the police is just a matter of time. I think they're going to be the last to be privatized because that's going to be the biggest step. I mean, the NHS is going to be before that, definitely.
Schools have gone already.
But we've got it's gaining a lot of support now because we've got the teachers' union, the firemen. They're all taking the call for a general strike up from People's Assembly on the 10th.
10th of July, yeah.
Yeah, GMB.
We got one in our city. I'm going to be there. All suited and booted.
So hopefully, you know, I think the unions need to start doing more. You know, marching once a year at the Tory conference and enough anymore. Not getting anywhere.
I honestly don't see anything changing. I mean, I you know, direct action this, that, and the other, but I don't see anything changing with protests anymore. I mean, the one issue also is that there needs to be. I think there just needs to be an alternative, and people need to consciously make those decisions to go for that alternative and leave the system as it is. Because protesting is all and good, but you do one protest on the 10th of July. Everything is on a standstill on that day. Corporations lose a couple of pennies, and then everything goes back to normal on the 11th and 12th.
But we gain unity. We gain knowledge that other people have done it. That is the only benefit we're going to gain out of it.
No, that is a benefit. That is a benefit, and we can't discard that. But I think that there needs to be a realization that there needs to be more done, as well as obviously those groupings, because those groupings are not. You can't just I've gone on an outing one day, and then I think that's going to change the world. You know, there needs to be a realization that protesting is one thing, but now we need to get together and think of an alternative.
I think it was the Magna Carta group. I think they had the right idea. They wrote to the unions and they asked for a general strike every day of the week for 4 weeks, and then there was a march, then a strike for 1 day of the week every week, then a charged with what they wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, that they were presenting what they wanted, you know, and they, because one day is not enough.
No,
You have
not
to
at
show
all.
that you're prepared to do this until you get the change that you want.
Problem is, they were taken down by nationalists.
They are.
But they never had the support of the unions anyway, because the unions wouldn't support that. But, you know, if for this for general strike to work, it has to be sustained over a period of time. There has to be demands, and you have to work to timescales. You can't just have it one day.
I mean, another thing is I mean, this is a thought that came to my head just now, but like the corporations that hold governments to ransom, saying that, oh, if you don't do this, that, and the other, we're going to cut your funding. The people have the same amount of power. I mean, what's to stop, for example, People's Assembly saying, we're going to strike until you force Amazon to pay the tax they're due?
Yeah. The only thing is wages, people's wages, which I went around the school today at the summer festival heckling all the teachers and go, are you striking? Are you striking? I was going around to everyone, anyone who's part of a union, that's it, they're getting it till Thursday. And they are. You've not seen my techniques. But every time we don't get paid, we don't get paid, we don't get paid. People, they're on this austerity has put a stop to strikes. People can't live without that day's wage. They're struggling. We want paid strike.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, and this is, I think, where the unions need to come involved, because the unions are supposed to be a collective. I think it would be smarter if unions, for example, set up their not their own banks as such, but almost like a savings thing.
Like a funding sort of.
Do they not do it?
Yeah, where everybody that's part of the union puts their money together, like a little bit each week, so that when they go on strike, they've still got a load of, almost like back in the Renaissance when castles used to go on the sea. They'd have a stockpile of food so they could last a week, 2 weeks, and so forth. Because all that's happening now is effectively that the unions are going on strike, and then they're being starved out because they got to go back eventually to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it just seems like they need to be better organised.
It's not like the old days where you won't get people going into work. You won't have scatters, they used to be called, breaking the picket lines. You know, like if you're striking, you're not supposed to work, but you will always find people that will cover you. They'll just go to the employment agencies. They'll have someone in that day, don't you think?
Yeah,
I mean,
Royal Mail did when I went there on their day when they.
Carry on.
Yep, when I went there on their day, they were stood outside, and the profanity shouted at people who were working that day they were quite funny, because obviously they were all friends as well, if you know what I mean. But you've got people going, I've got to earn a wage, I've got a family, and then you've got them, you don't excuse me, and all this stuff. But the union at Royal Mail is shit, and that is it, right? They are crap. They do not stand for their people. I know, because I was married to someone who worked in Royal Mail, and he's worked there for over 16 years. And the union does nothing to help them whatsoever. He's still part of the union. The union man goes on holiday for Peterborough, goes on holiday every time there's a strike. Just goes on holiday.
Well, that's another thing. I think the unions are a bit of a joke, because don't the chairmen and the leaders of the unions get huge wages?
Yeah.
And
Well,
I mean, that's what the money.
That's what we said at the People's Assembly, weren't it?
Yeah, it's profit. They were
They get
self-promoting themselves.
You see, I mean, that's the problem. I mean, unions shouldn't be just a forum for discussion and a place where someone can get a big wage. I mean, the whole point of a union is supposed to be almost like a collective where you're supposed to help each other out. And I think we're forgetting the fact, and I think that's the problem with everybody that's working outside the system, you know, with all sorts, is that we always forget that the main issue is money. That the only thing that runs society, the only thing that will change this system is money. If you don't have it, you're screwed. And it's like, for example, again, as you said, with striking, you need money to go on strike. You need money for the day. You need money to help your workers because they can't live without it. So it's almost like if you're trying to do something without money, you're just banging your heads against a brick wall because that is.
But then surely the money that you put into the union each week, right, should go straight forward back to the workers on the day of strike.
Yeah, or pay for the banners, you know, and all that.
That's what the money. I mean, they spend the money on coaches to get everybody there.
Well, they don't need marches or maybe just a strike outside their place of work is quite sufficient. If everybody's paid, the strikes would get bigger.
Yeah, I mean, they don't. Why do they need to bring coaches? I mean, surely a strike would be more effective if it was all across the country. I mean, can you imagine Royal Mail offices are all across the country instead of getting everyone to London.
So that the London. Nobody able to get to work because their kids aren't at school, so they might as well strike anyway and still get paid for it.
This is what we said, you know, like the People's Assemblies cross country. Occupy's got various groups cross country. You've got Anonymous with various groups cross country. And that's what we need to start focusing on, is getting active with local people around you, with people around you that feel the same. So that if they have a march in London against taxes or against corruption, you can do it in every city across the country rather than just one. And get together and organise local actions to do with local issues. Fighting this nationally is too costly, it's too diluted. And
I don't know, I think if people were paid to, if the money that went into a union to join a union was given back to the people that for that day of strike, 2-3 days of strike, and everybody was to walk out of work on that same day, because people would, if they were getting paid for it, they would flip in strike just for the fact that they were getting a day off anyway. That would be massive. It would be a massive shortfall. If you did it 3 days, 3 days pay, teachers would definitely strike because they've had enough. I know that. Gove is dead in the water. I would not want to walk in a back alley alone if I was Gove. And you've got teachers going crazy. If they got offered a paid day, 2-3 days of strike, they'd take it. The mums and dads that can't work and they were offered to take the strike for paid, they'd take it too because they'd have to look after their kids. It would affect everyone and anyone in a mass sort of thing, and that's why they don't pay you on strike day.
You see, I think that's why. That's what I mean. I honestly think unions need to step up on this bit, because I understand that unions, you know, maybe underfunded or whatever. But I mean, the whole point of it is that you do need money. Again, and if you, I mean, even if, for example, they all set up their own little savings places where you, for example, if you were part of a union member, you got the option of, do you want to put some money away for strike action days?
Yeah.
And then people could opt in.